Baron Voodoo is a set collection game that takes on an element of chess. It's highly replayable as you take all the dice seen here and roll them each game, making the number of board states near infinite. Now I'm going to do something a little different and front load my review right now with my overall opinion of the game, and if you're curious how I came to this conclusion, you should stick around. Baron Voodoo does every element of its design well. The gameplay is intriguing and well thought out, the components are nice, and the theme tries to bring it all together. However, when all the pieces fall into place, I find the game feels a bit hollow. When I'm playing Baron Voodoo, I don't find myself getting excited about the board state or the plays being made. They feel very short-lived. I can tell that this game, while simple initially, has a very high skill ceiling. I just don't know if it's worth taking the time to play it enough to get there. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Battlecast. We're going to jump into the meat of this review for Baron Voodoo from Lucky Duck Games. Now as always, I review games based on gameplay, components, and fun factor. Let's go ahead and talk about the gameplay. Now if you're just curious about the more in-depth, about the components or fun factor, there'll be a link in the description that'll just jump the gameplay section. In Baron Voodoo, players start by selecting one of the 4 Loas. Each Loa has a unique power. Now these powers can be used either at the start or end of your turn if you are able to spend an offering token. These abilities will manipulate the board state either to your advantage or to your opponent's detriment. For example, Mamiwata, who can basically grab all the dice on a row and compress them along. Or Papa Legba, who can take an isolated dice on the board and swap it with another isolated dice. The game starts by rolling all of the dice. How random! For those of you who like more structure, there is a fixed setup where you change the die face to match a diagram for a more balanced play experience. Now you'll notice that the Loa's colors actually match those of the dice on the board. This is because on your turn, you can only manipulate dice of your color. The objective of the game is to use your color dice to jump adjacent dice, thereby capturing them. When you take a die off the game board, you put it onto your capture zone of your player board. This is where you accumulate various colors and symbols on the dice to make sets to score points. The sets are same color, different symbol, or same symbol, different color. The more of the dice you include in a set, the more points it's worth. You score these sets at the end of your turn by taking any number of dice you want to include in a set and moving it from your capture area on your game board down to the spirit world. If you manage to get a set of 4, it's worth 5 points. Now when you actually capture a dice from the game board by jumping it, the symbol that is showing on the dice you captured allows you to use its ability. There are 6 die faces, which means there are 6 abilities to use. So many permutations! Just a quick overview, the abilities of the dice are as follows. This one here is gain an offering token, and offering tokens can be spent to use your Loa power. If you spend 2, you can take an additional turn, or you can even spend them to switch a die face of a dice you just captured. This symbol is changing a die face in your capture area to help you make sets. This one actually allows you to swap a die in your capture zone with an opponent's die in their capture zone. This one here allows you to steal a die from an opponent's spirit world. This one allows you to gain a victory point when you capture it. And this one, interestingly, provides a shield. You flip your shield token over until your next turn, which means that your die cannot be captured on the board, and furthermore, you cannot have your dice stolen from you from your spirit world. Now the last aspect of the game is the Baron Samedi token. Whoever has the most white dice in their spirit world actually takes the Baron Voodoo token and places it on top of their Loa, therefore replacing its power. Now the benefits of the Baron Samedi token are very powerful. You can use any Loa power at the start or end of your turn for free. Now, if this seems very strong, that's because it is, and it's a huge part of the game, balancing who has the most white dice in their spirit world, and this is why stealing dice from someone's spirit world is very important, because if you take a white dice from them, it's essentially a 2 white dice swing in your favor. The game ends when a player reaches the point threshold located on the score track for the number of players playing. For a 4-player game, it's first to 12, and for a 2-player game, it's first to 18. The game also ends if no legal plays can be made by a player, and this has to factor in the use of Loa abilities as well. When the game does finally end, you award 3 points to the player who has the most dice of each color. Now moving on to components. The game is quite simple, and the price actually reflects that. However, simple games can have nice components, and that's true here. I love the 2-tier game board that allows the dice to sit comfortably in it without moving around. And I love the wooden dice in this game. They have a really nice feel to them, but I think more importantly, they allow them to stack much easier, and stacking is something you do a lot of in this game. Dice in this game can stack up to 4 high. The art in this game takes place mostly off of the game board, but what there is really nice, and I think that the theme they chose for this game goes really well. The player boards are nice and clear. I love the distinguish between capture area and spirit world, and I love that the Baron Samedi token just fits right over top of your Loa. Now my big gripe with the components is actually the rulebook. This very much left me wanting in a few areas. Like for example, what an isolated dice is. To me, isolated means nothing around it. However, to this game, it means not having any dice on top of them. I don't know, this doesn't seem very intuitive, and in no place do they actually specify what they mean by isolated. They just say isolated. Biggest of all, however, is in regards to the Loa powers. They are described quite poorly, and depending on your interpretation, their power level can vary greatly. At the time of writing this review, there was very little information on the Loa powers. I am pleased to say, however, that Az from Lucky Duck Games has gone to BGG and put up a big FAQ and has wonderful diagrams on how these work, and it's a huge boon to the game. I only wish it made it into the rulebook, as not everyone I think will go to BGG. Now moving on to fun factor. Honestly, this game is not bad, but it's also not great. Although the game is simple in appearance, there's actually a lot going on here. The more your colored dice get captured, the less flexibility you have to capture other dice around the board. This makes the shield symbol very valuable to prevent your dice from being captured, because you want to keep your options open. Knowing how to use your Loa's power before your turn is really important, as it opens up other avenues of play for you. The next level is learning how to use your Loa power after your turn to inhibit your opponents. I'm still having a hard time wrapping my head around it. Swapping the right dice with your opponents to make a set for you, or even stealing the right dice from your opponent to give you the Baron Samedi token, or, set up that endgame scoring for having the most of each color. The nuances are many. The Baron Samedi token in this game feels quite strong, maybe even too strong. If you get this token early, you can absolutely run away with the game, and this is especially true if you're teaching new players who may not understand the importance of this token. On that note, I want to talk about the ideal number of players. Personally, I think the more the merrier, because in a 2-person game, keeping control of that Baron Samedi token is very easy. You just, keep stealing back that white dice and you'll keep having control of it. Furthermore, in a 2-player game, your die is less likely to be captured, your color, and so your avenues of play are much more. In a 4-player game, it becomes much more chaotic. The chance of your die color being captured by another player is a bit higher, and therefore it's, becomes much more important to protect your die. Furthermore, there's more die in people's capture areas, so you can swap them to score. Stealing one color of die from somebody can make the difference for endgame scoring. It becomes less like a chess match and more like a chaotic free-for-all. I feel like with more players is how this game was meant to be played. When it's all said and done, though, I do feel like turns are a bit too short to feel meaningful, and the game is honestly over before you know it. Another way to say this is that the thinking phase is much longer than the doing phase, and the doing phase is so short it doesn't really feel rewarding. Furthermore, my friends and I, when we played, always just found the game was kind of over. Usually in most games you sort of feel like a sense of urgency or tension as we know the points are coming down to the wire. In Baron Voodoo we were just kind of like, well, that's game. In a world where more board games are coming out than ever before, being okay and a bit forgettable I don't think is going to cut it anymore. Now I fully acknowledge that this type of game may just, not have turned my crank, and this might be the perfect game for you. So please let me know in the comment section below if you like this type of game, or even if you've played it and very much enjoy it. Baron Voodoo is a fine game, and its whole is not greater than the sum of its parts, I found. I feel like if this game was hidden behind another game on my shelf, it wouldn't come to my mind to play. Well, there's my review for Baron Voodoo. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next video. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please consider supporting the channel by liking this video or subscribing to the channel, and especially hitting that bell icon. Feel free to leave comments in the comments section below. I love talking with you guys. Until next video, I'll see you then. Thanks.